the sixth law of anxiety. You must always express your loyalty to the laws of anxiety. So how does that manifest itself in our language? It's a tricky thing to spot because we're a long way from where all this became social norms. You know? It's like most people get their car after it's been made. So this is the build sheet for the political sphere. It started at the culture shock event of birth. So it is a little tricky to see exactly how actually it is manifesting itself, but I will put it in there that, you know, as I see it, you must always, sixth law of anxiety, you must always express loyalty to the laws of anxiety. So this is what I'm going to say, that this is what is the cause of how criminals instinctively protect other criminals. Okay? Because the genesis of the criminal is in an anxiety, and they invariably use a theatre of promoting an anxiety as virtuous with the means that are permissible, which is threats, violence, you know. And other criminals instinctively know this. Okay, and everyone knows that if you try and challenge someone who has got a high level of anxiety, they are allowed to get angry with you, because that's what happens when you turn the volume up on the anxieties. And so how does the sixth law of anxiety, you must always express loyalty to the laws of anxiety, influence language? Well, it's a subtle thing. It is a subtle thing, but it is party to the political protectionism. As I've just pointed out, that is political protectionism, how criminals don't, you know, inform on their other co-criminals, even if there's any risk at all, even if they don't even know them. And this has the further implication of some people, when they hear a police siren, they immediately feel guilty. Okay? And, you know, this is the response. This is how the political optics, even though they have nothing to do with what the cop's doing at the time, they will still react guilty and in fear, because the political optics of even seeing the police, it causes this reaction. You know, because it's fundamental to the worldview. It's at the quantum level of thought. And you know, then there's all these stories they tell you of what, you know, how they're justified in doing that, and you know, saving face and all that. And so this also happens, you know, when anxiety is in the imperative, right? And so this is how people get treated by the establishment, you know. This is why no average person gets to speak on the media about political things or sociological things, you know, invariably things that are part of the causality of social problems. They're not invited, man. If you want to go up to the media and tell them you've got this new perspective on politics, or you've started a new political party, like in my situation, they don't want to talk to you. And so they've had my data, I went and seen them, and they haven't rung back, they haven't reacted, even when this is actually the first instance of quantum sociology. This is a major breakthrough in and the understanding of the human mind. Okay, and I'm saying that, and you're watching this, so you know that this is actually according to the true function of the mind and our consciousness. And this world of words, that's the lie. That's the lie. You know, and all the lies that all the baby lies that have been given birth over all these centuries of our civilization. There's just these giant pillars, the social pillars, that are philosophically underwritten by a pack of lies. And so that's why, preceding the discovery that anxiety is a political entity, I came to it that I invented a new word, which was slaphole. Okay, slaphole. Okay, SLAPOL, right, which stands for sounds like a pack of lies. Okay, because the rationale underneath it was that anxiety is wisdom, and that was what was making all of it a pack of lies. The whole situation, consciousness would have not only gone about it a whole lot differently, the conversation, but consciousness would have, this would never even have come up if consciousness was in control. And that's the serious point, man. And so we know the media talks about what they talk about, and a lot of people talk about what they talk about. And there's a lot of practices, and it's heavily evidenced by the character and behaviour of business. Actually, it's very much it materialises with the frequency of advertising and what they think they can get away with, right? What they think they can get away with. So you can't, this is why it's been impossible to really get this question talked about. Why is there so much violence in the television, right? And it could also be said in that question, why is there so much advertising? Why are we bombarded with so much advertising? And it's resting on this thing where you must always express loyalty to the laws of anxiety, because advertising is invariably telling you that you need this, you need this, you need this would be good for you. And they intimate that there's a negative implication if you don't have it. And so, thus has that law, that behaviour, that observed social norm had an influence over the development of our civilization, because it has control of the language. It pays its role in the language. And you've got to remember, it's not just the individual laws ever, it's all 8 of them all at once. So if you get someone there and they have a situation where they know you must always express loyalty to the laws of anxiety, you must allow others to conceal their anxieties, you must accept without question the dishonesty that is caused by the first 3 laws, you must acquiesce to they that are expressing the most anxiety, right? Well, that sounds a hell of a lot like the UN Security Council, and you tell me about any senior manager of a company, not the owner, the senior manager person, okay, trying to communicate the instinctively intuited anxieties of the owner that he is imagining that they have, right? He's imagining that the owner has, because he believes that anxiety is wisdom. So he always goes with a politically correct. He does things according to the political correctness of anxiety. Okay, and so then he faithfully transmits that anxiety down to the people under him. Okay, and this is making a mockery of communication, big time. And the quality of the quality when the process that makes the money is actually initiated, it is a vastly reduced quality. composition of the event, of people learning about what they have to do and then progressing to what they have to do and completing what they have to do, that composition of events is very much affected by how the imperative is put on, the imperative focus is put on the anxiety, right? And it's completely ruining, it's completely undermining the possible quality of the experience people have together and the way in which the business functions, actually. That's the fact of it, man. If this wasn't the case, lean manufacturing technology wouldn't exist. Because if this wasn't the truth, then everyone would be lean manufacturing experts, just by instinct, right? And if you haven't heard of lean manufacturing, Google it. It's about making your business environment as strictly as efficient as possible and have nothing in the workspace that isn't specifically required for doing the work in that environment, right? And then on top of that is beautifying the working environment. That's lean manufacturing. See, otherwise, there you go. Lean manufacturing wouldn't exist if this didn't exist. So this is the implication of it. So if let's just say that you got this here, the environment that's governed by this, and then you come in with your lean manufacturing people, you completely re-establish process and this memorandum of understanding, and then you get the business as it is after that experience, right? Okay, well, what they've done is they've actually removed the consequences of the 8 laws out of the business environment. I mean, they do say the fish rots from the head down, and this is kind of that's a kind of a truism about that can be applied to this. The consciousness hijacked by anxiety then transmits its wisdom to the people down it, and it's a compulsion to control what everyone thinks, and la dee da, mate. And this is all what's been going on, man. So yeah, that's the implication of it. As I said, a 6th law of anxiety: you must always express loyalty to the laws of anxiety. So not only do criminals actually not inform on other criminals instinctively, they have this whole political anti-authority thing because of this, actually. Because the police, to the criminals, right, the police look like consciousness while they are trying to promote the highest level of anxiety, which makes them feel stronger and bigger, and bigger in the political sphere. That's the whole thing of it. That's all they are politicians that actually have no money. And they actually it's kind of replicated exactly the same, and so yeah, and so this is the world we live in. And so that's why I say really poor people and really rich people, they've got one thing in common, right, which is neither of them value education. The poor person just gets better at being poor and making their life a more quality experience while they're poor, and they just get better at that. And also the rich people, they don't want to change a single thing. They just want to keep making money, and money is then the only thing that exists to them, which is equal to the political status that poor people strive to get when there is a giant vacuum of resources. And in the rich person's case, there's a giant vacuum of resources because that's created by this compulsion to have control, and the speedometer they're using is money. Okay, and so they've got this fictitious race they're in between each other of who's got the most money, and it's a race no one can ever win, because they're not having a race to end the race. That's the thing of it. And so this is the, you know, and that applies to these poor people as well. You know, street hoodlum people. They're madly trying to win this political race against everyone else, and there's no outcome. There is no outcome because the premise of their worldview is anxiety, and anxiety doesn't want a solution. Anxiety wants things to stay exactly as they are now, and so this is philosophically underwriting how rich people and poor people, neither of them value education. And so a lot of the political sphere in both those camps it's a very real thing that everyone must always express loyalty to the laws of anxiety, because that's how the political sphere works. Okay, so this is the thing of it, and so that's why the aversion to communicate exists, because people that are all into this political sphere, hardcore political hierarchy, they have an aversion to communicate, because anyone that channels consciousness can make them look like stupid people. Anyone, because consciousness is primarily interested in solutions, and it is a willing communicator, while the person that believes that anxiety is wisdom has an aversion to communicating, and they secretly don't want solutions. They're motivated to maintain the situation exactly as it is, because the situation that I'm talking about is actually only the vehicle of their anxieties, and it's the anxieties that are the primary focus of what they're saying. Okay, so I hope that gives some indication as to the influence that the sixth law of anxiety has over language, and how civilization, you know, has been developed, and how society functions. And it also answers to why people with consciousness can't communicate with people with anxiety, because they speak virtually different languages, right? And so with all this taken into account, this is why the language consciousness uses has had absolutely zero effect on changing the nature of anxiety sufferers, because it literally, anxiety was created at a time when there was no language, and that is how it exists at the quantum level of thought. It's not a thing of language at all. And so this is something that's really serious. That's a serious issue, what's stopping development as well. While the fifth law of anxiety is you must acquiesce to the expression of most anxiety. So everyone that goes up to an anxiety sufferer, like all these little criminals, like anyone talking to a rich person about their money, okay, they will invariably default immediately to the fifth law, and the second law, and the fourth law, and the third law, and you know. So that's my thoughts on the sixth law of anxiety. You must always express loyalty to the laws of anxiety. Unless you produce a qualification of anxiety where you can figuratively hold it in your hand and look at it, and in doing so the political optics are you've separated from yourself and you've rendered anxiety tangible for the first time in the history of the human race. Game on, bro. Game on, everyone. This is the thing. It's made anxiety tangible. There's all this effect on communication because it's intangible. And now anxiety is tangible. Happy day.